Coming up on iOS today, we take a look at CarPlay. And by a look, we mean we're actually going to take a look at it. It's very exciting. Stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is iOS Today with Rosemary Orchard and me, Mikah Sargent, episode 744, recorded Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, for Thursday, March 20th, 2025. Cultivating Your CarPlay Experience. Hello and welcome to iOS Today, the show where we talk all things iOS, iPadOS, HomePodOS, watchOS, and all the OSs that Apple has on offer, including CarPlay from time to time. I am one of your hosts. My name is Mikah Sargent.
And I am your other host, Rosemary Orchard. And I would just like to note right now at the top of the show, I'm in the UK, which means that my CarPlay is flipped because we drive on the other side of the car. So for everybody who's about to send in feedback and say, your CarPlay is wrong, maybe it's your CarPlay that's wrong.
Yes, you can send your emails to noreply@twit.tv. Anyway, so this is an episode where we thought we would talk a little bit about CarPlay because it is a technology that has been around for a long time. And as is always my way, I want to start by kind of explaining something about CarPlay, because it's something that people get wrong quite often. It's important to understand that CarPlay is not like this software that your car manufacturer puts into your car, and then when you plug in an iPhone, it activates it, and then it shows up on your dash or anything like that. No, CarPlay is actually an extension of your phone itself. Your phone has kind of it's almost like it's a projector, or it is an HDMI connection. And when you plug in your phone, that is what's powering the CarPlay experience. Your internal dash just displays what your phone is showing, and your phone is showing CarPlay. So again, the reason why I bring that up is because sometimes people are going, CarPlay isn't working, and I think it's because of this, that, or the other. And when we're trying to troubleshoot, it's important to understand that a lot of that troubleshooting does need to happen on the side of the phone and the connection and how that is working versus being necessarily something that your car itself is doing. Now, I say all of that with a hefty dose of caveat, because over time, as CarPlay continues to get more and more powerful, and we've been told for a while now that CarPlay is going to continue to add new features and functionality, that does become more an issue of something that's happening on your car's side, where the phone is trying to integrate with the firmware, so to speak, of your vehicle and read things like your the speed of your vehicle, the current battery levels, your tire pressure, that kind of thing. Those may be added over time. And so then that's where we've got more of an issue on one side or the other, and a little bit more troubleshooting that you'll have to do. But CarPlay comes in wired and wireless flavors and gives you the ability to control a lot of your phone and your entertainment without needing to actually look at the device. That's kind of the whole point of CarPlay. It's designed around interactions using your voice, or very brief interactions with your finger, or a physical option within your car. For example, my significant other has a Mazda, and there's a sort of dial that he has in his car. And so he uses that to access different parts of the functionality. Whereas in mine, it is a touch screen, which I find to be not as safe, and therefore requires some brief interactions. But most of what you can do with tapping on the screen can also happen by way of Siri, and is typically triggered by something on your steering wheel. And in fact, depending on the version of CarPlay you have, whether it's wired or wireless, it all starts with pressing that little button on your car's dash, or wherever it happens to be. By dash, I actually meant to say your car's wheel, or wherever it happens to be, steering wheel. because that will kind of bring into play the CarPlay connectivity and give your in-dash system the chance to look for a phone that has CarPlay and connect to it. Again, if it's wired, sometimes that will happen automatically. If it's wireless, then of course it needs to connect. And one more important thing I'll say before I let Rosemary chat about some stuff as well is that CarPlay on the wireless side is actually not what you would expect in that it is Bluetooth or some connectivity like that, but in fact is a dual connectivity system where it is using both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi to send and receive commands from the device and serve up that screen, that CarPlay screen on your in-dash system. So I have wireless CarPlay in my vehicle, and it also supports wired, but I use it wirelessly. And the way that works is it first connects over Bluetooth, and then the system recognizes, oh, this is a CarPlay phone. It turns on a local Wi-Fi network in the dash. My phone connects to that, and then it is able to pass over that information over Wi-Fi. And then some of the connectivity, like hitting play and pause, back and forward, those commands are being sent over Bluetooth, whereas the rest is sent over Wi-Fi and is able to take care of that there. Wired, of course, everything can kind of get transmitted through that wired connection, usually USB, to provide the necessary functionality. So again, it all just depends on your vehicle. Now, I'm super excited because Rosemary has made it possible for us to show you, if you have a vehicle that doesn't have CarPlay, or if maybe you don't have a vehicle and you're just kind of curious what CarPlay looks like, Rosemary has cleverly made it possible for us to talk about it. Can you tell us what it is you have? And maybe we could link to it even if other folks wanted to get one of these.
Yeah. So what I have here is a screen that you can install in your car. And this supports both CarPlay and Android Auto. And so what I have is just a mini car dashboard, basically inside my house. So over here, you can see it's got a USB-C cable that's powering it. So you need to have some kind of power for this in your car. But guess what? It comes with one of those cigarette lighter adapter whatsits. So you can grab one of those to plug it in. And what I like about this is, of course, the fact that I can actually take advantage of this and use this inside my house to show folks what this looks like. So I just picked up something on Amazon a while ago. It was not anything like that necessarily had super fabulous reviews or anything. I've just looked again. It's got 129 reviews and 4 stars, so it's not bad. But yeah, it's just a 7-inch portable car stereo wireless CarPlay screen, Android Auto screen. Yes, you can tell that somebody has been doing word soup with this to try and get all of the links, or, all that
necessary
SEO. Yes, exactly. But yeah, that is what this is called. And what is great about it is that I have CarPlay right here and I can show you what this looks like. So I'm just having a little issue with my system where the input keeps changing, so I can't send people a link. But now I've done that, I can take folks on a little tour of CarPlay. And so here, I'm going to start by swiping all the way to the left. And again, a note, this is flipped for me versus a lot of folks in the US. Okay, so I have a map over here and I have some CarPlay actions here. And then on the far right, I have my menu because that is closest to my steering wheel when I'm in my car. So I have some suggested destinations from my home. I have media playback controls. I have a fake garage door in HomeKit. Because I am at home and HomeKit understands geography. So this disappears when I'm not at home. And these 2 top areas with the in this case, links to various places that are pinned in maps and the media controls, those will expand to be 50-50 in height. And then over on the right-hand side, I have maps. Then I can swipe from here, or I can tap this little button. For me, this is in the bottom right. For those of you in the US, that will be in the bottom left, where it switches between sort of 9 squares and an open square. And this takes you to the app view where you can swipe through, or I can swipe from that screen as well. And then we have our apps. Now, there is one app here that some of you will be going, huh, what's that? Smart Screen. This gets replaced with whatever the name is of your car. Probably. So in my case, that shows me a Renault app. In Mikah's case, that might show a Mazda, for example. Whatever app, whatever kind of car brand you have, that is what it will most likely show. And then we have our apps. And depending on what apps you have installed on your device, you may have multiple pages here, or you may not have many. But one thing that I can tell you is I don't want Zoom in my car. Like Zoom does not belong in my car. That is not something I need in my car. Maybe you do need it, but you can control the apps that are in your car with the CarPlay settings that are in settings on your phone. So I've just switched over to my phone, and it's under settings, general CarPlay. Now, if you have multiple devices, okay, like I do here, I have my Renault, which is my actual car, and Smart Screen, which is this little fake car that I've got here in the house. Then you can control this per car. So you can turn CarPlay on and off for different cars. So say, for example, if you often get in your partner's car and you don't want to use CarPlay in their car, you can turn that off, or maybe just don't pair it in the first place, but whatever. And then if you tap on the home screen icons option, then this is where you get to the good stuff. So I can get rid of Zoom. Okay, I can get rid of Toya. I can get rid of Telegram. I can get rid of Microsoft Teams. Who wants Microsoft Teams in the car?
No,
certainly not me. And then you can actually rearrange the apps that you do want. Okay, so to go back to my fake car screen here, I can see that I have 5 apps across and 2 apps down. Now, depending on the size of your screen, and when I say size of your screen, I am talking width and height, but also aspect ratio, okay? If you've got a really tall screen in your car, you might have, say, 3 apps across and 4 apps down, depending on the size of the screen. So you obviously need to figure that out for your car, because when you're looking at the iPhone, if you're not in the car, because you can control these settings even when you're not in the car, so you can do it when you're sitting on comfortably on the couch watching iOS today, then you can change this, but you need to remember how many apps are on screen. So I have 10 apps per screen, which means that I need to choose what 10 things are the most important to me on that first screen. So I'm going to move Waze up because, as folks may be able to tell by the little asset after the Waze name, I am running the beta of Waze. So I love to use it, give them feedback when things are working, and give them feedback when things aren't working. Then I also have broadcasts, which can be a great way to listen to a live radio, or even things like Twitch live stream, or Relay, or ATP, or lots of places have a URL that you can pop in there. Now, the smart screen, I don't really want that, can go right at the end. You can't get rid of that one. There are some apps you cannot remove. So you can't remove the phone, you can't remove music, maps, messages, now playing, settings, or your car's app. But everything else you can rearrange and you can do whatever with. And I should note that as I'm rearranging, this is updating in real time here. Okay, so if I were to move Overcast up, then that pops up and is then back here underneath broadcasts on the previous screen. So if I want Waze to be, I think I want it one more over. So it's just a bit closer to me if I'm not currently using Waze, then that's perfect. And maybe what I'll do is I'll move broadcasts down a bit, but I'll move Google Maps up. So I have a choice between Google Maps, Maps, and Waze now. And yeah, this is, just one of the things that you can do with CarPlay. And if you've done all of this and you're like, no, like I accidentally removed all of the apps and I want everything back, there's a reset button right at the top. And look, everything has gone back to normal. And over on my iPhone, we have all of the apps back in their original order, which I should note is alphabetical, which means Audible comes first, which is great if you love audiobooks, not great if you love Waze for maps and you've got a lot of the apps here.
Now, when it comes to CarPlay, as you saw, Rosemary was able to access, I think, some of the most important features, and I think most important settings, rather, and the settings that require a lot of focused attention from the phone without being connected to CarPlay. But there are some features that you can only interact with that are in the CarPlay view itself, like, for example, changing the background wallpaper and some of the other features. Do you want to show what the settings app looks like in CarPlay versus on your phone, which you can do, as you said, even if you're sitting on the sofa?
Yes. So I will start on my phone. So settings, general, CarPlay, and then you choose a car. So in this case, I'll choose my fake car here, and then turn CarPlay on and off. Change home screen icons, forget this car. That's it. That's all I got. But over on my fake car, over here on my desk, if I had a real car on my desk, that would have been something. I could have recorded iOS today in my car, but I decided not to for various reasons. So I have the settings app, which looks familiar. The icon is very similar, and I'm sorry about the glare on the screen, folks. I have done what I can to try and get rid of it, but unfortunately, there's not a lot I can do. So driving focus, I can say whether or not that should be activated with CarPlay. Now, it is worth noting, actually, that on your iPhone, so I'll just pop up my iPhone here under settings and then focus, that's not, do not disturb, not driving, then you can actually have this turned on automatically while driving. That is a setting you can customize here. That's not under CarPlay settings, though. That's under focus modes. But that is something you can change. So I have driving focus, announce messages. Announcing messages turned on or off, and then the options. So when CarPlay starts, do I want to default to announcing new messages, silencing new messages, or remember my previous setting? I'm actually going to go with a silence messages, and I'm going to turn that off just in case I get a message that I don't want everybody seeing during iOS today. But you can then turn on and off announcements here, and yeah, you've got those settings.
I like to have that one turned off because there are often other people in my vehicle. And yes, I don't necessarily want my messages blasted to the room when we're to the space when we're listening to music or something else, because you just never know what you're going to get.
No, exactly.
That could be upsetting.
Yeah. One of the things that I do like is if it is turned on, then I can actually see there's a little icon. It's kind of hard to see on this screen, folks. So I'm sorry about that, but near the battery, and sometimes this will be at the top, sometimes this will be to the bottom of the screen. It depends on your car and the car screen, but there is a little icon which is next to the battery, which shows a little bell with a waveform next to it. And that is basically saying, hey, announce notifications is on, so I can see that when I'm in the car immediately, and I know if announce notifications is on or off, and therefore I can turn it off if I get in and it's on and I've got people with me and I don't want them to see it. Next up, after announce notifications, is appearance. So you can have appearance be automatic light and dark, or always dark. And this is part of the problem. Sunset is hit here. And so now my CarPlay is stuck in dark mode. In light mode, it would be easier to see, but unfortunately, I cannot force it into light mode because that would ruin your night vision while you were driving.
Yes, and I want to quickly note,
don't want a bright screen blaring out in the car.
With that feature in particular, typically it is tied to what your phone says about when night mode gets turned on or light mode gets turned on, in terms of you may have it set so that at sunset, for example, that's how I have mine set. Sunset, dark mode turns on. On my Mac, it's always on. So there are different ways that you have that set up. However, if your car supports it, and if your in-dash infotainment system supports it, CarPlay can actually respond to what your vehicle has as the settings for when dark mode should enable. And that is typically tied, again, to the car itself. So if your car's infotainment system has a built-in feature where it dims as things get darker outside, based on a sensor that's typically in the dash or time or whatever it happens to be, CarPlay can respond to that. And so that automatic mode will be tied to that as well, versus the version which is always dark, where it doesn't need to do that. So for example, Patrick Delahanty in the chat says, yes, for him, his CarPlay is tied to his Nissan Murano's brightness. So it will actually make adjustments to it based on that.
Yeah. Mine's connected to a whole bunch of things, including my headlights, actually, on my car.
Oh, nice.
So if I drive under a bridge or into a tunnel, then the headlights will turn on and all the in-car displays will adjust automatically as well, which is quite nice as a feature, and is very good that it does time with CarPlay. But sometimes you come out from under the bridge and it takes the car like a minute to adjust. So you're sitting in traffic and you're like, I can't really read the map at the moment.
I can't see what it says.
So, yeah. Yeah, that as Patrick said, it switches to dark mode a little too early or a little or hangs on to it a bit too long in some cases, but most of the time it's a pretty great feature. So next in our settings, we have wallpaper. And wallpaper is something you're not going to see a lot of in the car because it's the thing that's behind all the app icons. So if I were to select this, ooh, look, it's pretty. It's behind the app icons. You cannot choose pictures of your wife, your pets, your kids, partners, planets, anything like that. You are limited to the options that are here. And there are 9 of them in my case, and that's it. So it's barely worth having a scroll option for. Silent mode. Silent mode is basically whether you want things to ding. Do you want it to mirror your phone? Do you want CarPlay to turn on silent mode or turn off silent mode? And this basically will just change for announcements and so on, so that, you get dings through CarPlay. So if, for example, I have silent mode on my phone basically permanently, but if I have turned off silent mode and then Mikah sends me a message in the car, I will still get the ding to say that I've got a message over the speakers, but my phone won't ding. It'll just be through CarPlay. So that's how the silent mode option works. Then we have the accessibility settings. So here we have vision filters for bold text, which makes everything perhaps a little easier to see, or I think that that's actually making it a little blurrier for you folks, so I'm going to turn that off. And color filters. So if I turn on color filters, I can put everything into grayscale. I could do a red-green filter for people who are red-green colorblind, or green-red, which is the inverse of that. There's also a blue-yellow filter. I can also reduce the intensity of colors. So I can set that to low, medium, or high, which... yeah, that's more important for things like maps and so on, where you could have a lot of color going on. There's also voice control options. So it allows you to use the microphone of your iPhone to control CarPlay rather than the microphone built into your car. Some cars have got really, really terrible built-in microphones, and if you're somebody that always magnetizes your phone to a charger on your dash, and so it's in a good place to hear you, you may get better results using your voice control through your iPhone. And then there's also sound recognition options. So it can listen for car horns and sirens, for example, and then it will listen to those and identify them and let you know. So, for example, if you have a hearing impairment and you're still good to drive, because I suspect most people with hearing impairments are, unless it's they've got something else as well, then it's quite nice to be able to get a little thing that pops up and says, there's a siren. I can hear a siren. And so then you know, and you can be looking around to see the flashing blue lights as well. Then Apple Intelligence and Siri. So suggestions in the dashboard. I'll just go to my dashboard and show folks. That will include things like my patio doors here, which is part of HomeKit, but that's a Siri suggestion. It will also include things like calendar events popping up so that you can tap on those to automatically navigate to them and so on. So that's basically these controls. In my case, over here on the left, if you're in the US or somewhere where you drive on the other side of the road, they'll usually be on the right for you in CarPlay. So yes, automatically sending messages. Do you want Siri to proofread messages back to you? If Siri... do you want that to always happen, or do you want Siri to automatically send messages? I have this turned on because if Siri is pretty sure about what I've said, it just sends the message. So if Mikah sends me something and then Siri says, hey, would you like to reply? And I say, yes. What would you like to say to Mikah? And I say, okay, sounds good. Then Siri will just go, sent. Done. That's it. So yeah, that's great. And then show apps behind Siri. This is a new one with Apple Intelligence. And this is pretty great if you are, say, in an application. This, by the way, is Carrot Weather, which is now available on CarPlay. If Siri gets activated, then there's that rainbow halo around the outside. I can still see the map. And this, for me, is really great. I can still see the directions. I can still see what's going on. I don't have to worry about not making my turn because I have missed something because Siri popped over and took everything over. So I definitely really love that setting. And then our last setting is very simple, showing album art on or off. So this again ties in with the dashboard. Would you see the album artwork when you're in the music player, in the dashboard and so on, or do you not see it? Entirely up to you. You may find it distracting, may find it useful. I personally like to have it because then when my mum says, hey, what is that? And taps on the CarPlay screen to find out, she can. So yeah, those are all the settings in CarPlay. And also, little bonus, Carrot Weather is available in CarPlay. So it can tell you what the temperature is, give you directions and so on and so forth too.
Beautiful. There's a lot of automated stuff, right, that happens with CarPlay. The ability to kind of get necessary information when it's needed. And I think that's a good way for us to kind of wrap things up when it comes to CarPlay, is the common question of, why am I seeing perhaps a little button that lets me open or close my garage door and that disappears at times? Why is my map automatically showing me how to get home? Why am I seeing a calendar event popping up? Basically, if people are seeing these kind of glanceable bits of information and they want to make a change to that, let's give them that tutorial on how to turn that off, turn it on, make adjustments to it.
So to turn off Siri suggestions, I'll just turn on my CarPlay screen. In the settings, then you just need to find the area called Apple Intelligence and Siri, or this may be just called Siri on your device if you don't have Apple Intelligence turned on. And then you just turn off suggestions in the dashboard. And that is all those Siri suggestions. And then back here, you can see my patio doors are gone because I don't have Siri suggestions enabled. And this gets rid of things like HomeKit integration, calendar integration, and so on and so forth. So up to you if you want it turned on or turned off. Personally, I find it's really helpful to have it turned on. But of course, whatever works for you, works for you.
Indeed. All right. As always, we'd love to hear about your interactions and use of the CarPlay functionality. So be sure to email us, iostoday@twit.tv. We have one bit of feedback that we want to hit, and that feedback comes in from Bill. So we'll hear that feedback next. Bill writes, what will happen within my Apple Music library if I discontinue the iTunes Match I've been paying for years now? So if you do that, it will cause the entire world to collapse in on itself in a black hole. So we just ask you, Bill, that you please do not discontinue your iTunes. No, I'm kidding. This has been confusing, right? Because iTunes Match, of course, is the subscription feature that Apple introduced that gave you the ability to take the music that you own and match that music with the same, almost entirely same track available in the Apple Music library. And the reason a person might want to do that is because it makes it easier to kind of sync that between devices, but also give you the ability to simply play it whenever it is, whenever you're in a place where, you may not otherwise have that track downloaded and you can just kind of quickly stream it. In some cases, it also meant that you were getting a higher quality version of the song. In some cases, it did mean a lower quality version of the song, but all of those were reasons to use iTunes Match. And iTunes Match continues to exist in the background, but people are going, well, what happens if I get rid of iTunes Match? And I think it kind of depends on whether you are also an Apple Music subscriber, on what will happen to the music that you have that is tied to iTunes Match.
Yes. It does. So what you can do, and what I would recommend that you do before you cancel it, make sure you have your music downloaded. So fire up music on the Mac, or is it music on Windows, iTunes on Windows? I don't remember if they've renamed it over there or not.
It is music,
but make sure you have downloaded all of your music, which will be digital rights management free, and you will get the highest quality version possible by downloading it. But make sure you do that before you cancel, because if you don't have Apple Music and you cancel iTunes Match, then you will just lose your library, and all of your music has just kind of disappeared. So make sure that you have downloaded everything first. You can do this on your iPhone and so on as well, but you can sync from your Mac to an iPhone or an iPad. You cannot sync from an iPhone or an iPad back to a Mac. So you'll need to make sure that you have downloaded that first. Now, if you have Apple Music, you kind of just don't need to worry because iTunes Match is part of Apple Music. iTunes Match is a sort of mini version inside of it, which just goes, hey, you already own this? Cool. We'll just give you the option to play it like you would if you just had Apple Music for exactly those tracks that you own. And yeah, that's a nice feature to have. But yes, if you don't want it anymore, then download all of your tracks first, and then you can unsubscribe after that. And yeah, just please make sure you have a proper full downloaded copy before you unsubscribe, because otherwise you might lose your music. And I would be very, very sad if that happened to you.
All righty. That, folks, is going to bring us to the end of this episode of iOS Today. We thank you so much for tuning in. Of course, you can always email us. iOStoday@twit.tv is how you get in touch. If you would like to get all of our shows ad-free, can I invite you to join our club? twit.tv/clubtwit is where you go to sign up for the club. We've got a 2-week free trial, so you can give it a go, kind of dip your toes in the water, make sure it's right for you. I think you'll find that you enjoy it as you get every single one of our shows ad-free. You gain access to the Twit Plus bonus feed that has extra content you won't find anywhere else, behind the scenes, before the show, after the show. Special Club Twit events get published there, and access to the members-only Discord server, a fun place to go to chat with your fellow Club Twit members and also those of us here at Twit. We would love to have you join the club and look forward to it. twit.tv/clubtwit is how you sign up. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all the great work you're doing, where should they go to do so?
Well, the best place to go is rosemaryorchard.com, which has got links to apps, books, podcasts, and all the social media sites. But of course, if you're a Club Twit member, you can also find me hanging out in the Club Twit Discord, where we have an iOS Today section just for us, including threads for every episode and a general discussion chat. And we hang out there during the live shows as well, which is great, because sometimes people give us really great tips during the show. And yeah, we can use those. But if you can't join us live, we still love it that you're joining us anyway. Mikah, where can folks find you?
If you're looking to follow me online, I'm at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network, or you can head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. So be sure to head there and check out my other shows, including Hands on Mac, Hands on Tech, Tech News Weekly, and Clockwise. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you again for another episode next week. Bye-bye.